Alright, so this is vlog number 2 in getting to know me or whatever. But probably people are incredibly disinterested in. It's okay, I guess. I don't know. Alright, so this one. So I'm gonna be going over. So before I did music, I used to draw. Drawing was my big thing, and I was planning to be, when I was little kid, I was planning to be a cartoonist. I was like really into Ren and Stimpy, and I liked a lot of the extreme facial gestures and expressions in Ren and Stimpy, and that made me want to draw. I don't have any sketches of that, but yeah, as a kid, I would first start to draw Ren and Stimpy, and then when I got to middle school, then I got into anime, and then I started liking all that stuff. Dragon Ball. First anime I saw was Dragon Ball Z, and then I saw a few other animes, and then I started to decide to create my own manga. When I was 14, it was when I graduated middle school. So it was like the summer. It was a summer in between 8th grade and 9th grade, like when middle school was done, but then it was before I had started high school. So I committed to drawing from when I was like ages 15 to 17, freshman, sophomore, and junior year of high school. I was drawing manga, and I was making my own manga, and I also sometimes did just drawing sketches of other things. This is not something obviously original, but this whole paper is like totally yellowed at this point, because I just drew this in a cafeteria in high school. It was this was like a sketch from Tenchi Muyo. Like, it was the samurai space opera manga graphic novel with from No Need for Tenchi. So it's Ayeka and the Jirai, in the Jirai outfit or whatever. And then I really like kind of drawing a lot of like the bangs, like women with bangs kind of thing, big plump bangs and stuff. So drawing Ayeka was fun. So then I have two original sketches that I drew. So this is dated from September 30th, 2002. So this character's, I called her Moxie. So it's supposed to be of like a lot of supposed to be like a lot of energy or whatever. So this was like that kind of period of time when you had Dragon. This was this is like early 2000s or whatever, and this is that period of time where in Dragon Ball Z they had Bulma with the crop top, and then there was that one girl that was friends with Gohan from Gohan's high school, named Erasa or something like that. And she had a crop top, and she had like the the blonde hair or whatever. So I mean, it was like at that time, it's like kind of what I was seeing all the time. So that's why I drew her with a crop top. I was like, and then it was like that period of time in like the early 2000s. It was like that whole I don't know if anyone remembers this. There was like this channel called Channel E. It was like E and had like an exclamation point or whatever, and it was just a lot of like random footage of like people in like cheesy nightclubs kind of thing. So there was a lot of tube top stuff going on. So I guess that's why that happened. It's very dated. You could say, I know in the 70s they kind of had a period of time, like in the late 70s, and some of like the horror movies, like if you see like the movie like Tourist Trap, they had women in those things. And that's the only other kind of time period I can think of was, and then with late 90s with Spice Girls with with Posh Spice, you know, in the movie Spice World, and on the cover of Spice Girls, like she had that kind of mini two-top dress thing. Those are the only eras I can think of where that was a kind of a thing. It's sort of not anywhere else. So anyway, this was like sort of another original sketch. So this is actually the day before that drawing. So this was September 29th, 2002. So I don't even know what the hell, you know, you get to, you see scans of anime and, you know, you just put in risque stuff. So, and again, I liked a lot of like the stacked kind of like bobbed or banged, you know, kind of hair, you know, at the time. So I did that. Anyway, so this thing is a brick. It's literally, this thing is massive. All right. Whew. Man, this thing's heavy. This whole thing is my manga. Like I said, I was committed to drawing manga. So this whole thing is a graphic novel. This is, so there's, inside of here, there is 7 30-page volumes in one book. So that's, look on the calculator here real quick. And then I even got to the 8th issue of it. I think I got up to page, I'm not sure, like 8 or something. And like the 8th, by the 8th issue, the whole thing was supposed to be up to, how I storyboarded it, it was supposed to be up to, supposed to be 8 issues of 30 pages. As the first, you know, graphic novel for like the series or whatever. Okay, so calculator. So let's see. So if I 30 times 7, that's 210. Plus about 8. It's like 2. All right. So, and then I had some cover photos in there. So it's like around like 220 pages. That's a lot. That was 3 years of work. Now, inside it, now it kind of everything I'm like showing you guys like is incredibly dusty, so it's like I'm getting like dust headache going on with all this stuff. So now it starts off drawing not very well, and then it progressively kind of gets better. So, and all of it's in pencil. So those 2 things I showed you before, those were inked and cleaned up, and then I scanned them, you know, with a, you know, computer scanner. Then I put them in Adobe Photoshop, and then and what I did is I colorized it in Adobe Photoshop, but then I would print it to grayscale, so that way it would be print in black and white grayscale, just like it would be in manga. So that's what those 2 sketches was. So this thing is very hard to see. So this is the very first picture, you know, very, very, very first picture. So it's just all pencil. It's just pencil. Now, I never was professionally trained for drawing or art at all, and I tried to get into programs, and there just like wasn't any. And fortunately, in this period of time, you know, this is the only thing that was popular in primitive drawing was like South Park, and people just saw anime. It was also just kind of like, you know, you have to, like, this is before Totally Spies, you know, when that Totally Spies came out. This is sort of before Samurai Jack. This is before like basically Americans or European people at all drawing anime was even a thing. You know, this is, you know, 20 years before, you know, Castlevania on Netflix, you know what I mean? at the time, it was laughable. They were like, "What are you doing? Like, this isn't even art. It's not even classification." You know what I mean? So then I had this is really hard to really show any of it though, because it's so fucking heavy. So that's like a little intro page. This is like an example of something that I put colorized, but with printed out in color. So as you saw, like on that first page, very first, like the cover, that was something that was just totally in pencil. And then what I started to do was, because I had stuff that was in pencil, I started to redraw some things. And then I started to ink it and, like I said, ink it, clean it up, you know, and then grayscale it in Adobe. Now, I did have actual Manga grayscale sticky on stuff, but it's very expensive to accumulate doing that for this whole thing. So I started off doing it traditionally. I have like a page or two where it's like that, and then I quickly gave up. You know, because it was just going to be too expensive and wasn't going to look as clean. So this page right here, that's kind of an example of something's like, it's like inked, but I still like the bottom, like the outlines are inked, but like this arm mirror, this is still pencil grade, you know. That's not computer grade. And then over here you can see this is like how the original looked. How it was looking. So it was drawn very, you know, it wasn't drawn very good. But I was just starting, you know, and I don't have any trained anything, you know what I mean? So, but this was inked, but this is like really messy. So like, for example, this would have been, if I was to pick this up, this would be the next page that would be completely redrawn and done in like the more cleaned up way, like over on those other pages. So guys, it comes in. So this is ninja themed. So it's basically, you know, the main character, like his whole look, it's inspired from Ninja Scroll with the main character, with Jubei. And then the fighting sequences is more towards DBZ, but also a little bit not, a little bit more graphic than DBZ at parts, because it's still at first kind of meant to be a little more realistic fighting, you know. But but these other guys do have more supernatural powers too, so I kind of did both. Kind of did both a more realistic, you know, traditional fighting, people getting hurt in that way, and then, you know, the supernatural powers. And there's a whole story behind this whole thing. Obviously, because, you know, it's a manga, you know. It's like the got blurry on me. That's like the next pages. Comes in. So then there's this guy, he has no arm, and he has basically Akira, like, you know, powers or whatever. I guess I have to flip it like this, as if it's drag queen story hour. No, I'm just kidding. Or whatever. I don't. And then this happened, and this happened. No. I don't know. My hands are kind of covering. Hard to see this. Yeah, there's glares and things, but you know. Oh, great. And then it just gets really blurry. Let's do this the whole time. Damn. Come on. Okay. So, I mean, this whole, I want to say the first two volumes are really rough. Like, they're not drawn that proportionally, I mean, that great and whatever, but you know, I still could storyboard things. Uh, yeah, some things are better than others, but you know, so. Uh, this thing is like, very long. Uh, right. So we have an inked picture on the other side, but it's color. But I grade it in pencil, so it's messy. Whereas the other side is no ink, just pencil. That's kind of a difference. Uh-oh. It fell out. I guess we'll just. I guess it got ripped or something. Looks like I just have it just kind of sitting, chilling like that. That way it doesn't go anywhere else. So I guess I could explain the backdrop of some of this story. Um, so the premise of this, hard for me to do two things at one time, to explain something and flip the pictures at the same time. But so the basic premise is you have a guy that's similar to Jubei from Ninja Scroll, but younger, and he is supposed to be like 15 or 16 years old. And then you have, or something like that, high school, something like that. Then he has an older brother who so he has this older brother that became part of this like drug. It's like Akira copycat shit, basically. You know, it was just like the Akira kids. You know, they got drug experimented on, and then they brought out this psychotelekinesis stuff, but then it like aged their bodies into like all wrinkly and all that kind of thing, and then like his arm got amputated because what happened was he got into a fight and he lost his arm, so his arm got amputated. In order to save his life, you know, the government or secrets, whatever type people offered him, oh, you can just die here, or we can use you to experiment. And then he took the experiment to save his own life, and then he regrets it because he feels he's like a freak or something like this, because he's like kind of feels like deformed from or non-humanized in some way. So then he has all this super anger regarding that, and you know he sort of harasses the little brother, the main character, because of that. The main character, whose name is Zen, the other guy, the brother, is named Skiz, short for Schizo. So like the little brother, he has this passed down sword that he can, it's kind of similar to the copycat idea of Tenchi Muyo with the Jirai sword, how like the Jirai sword was passed down, and then how just like how the sword doesn't like respond to everyone, but only responds to Tenchi, and then Tenchi has this like major power that he can like sort of create a sort of a beam of light, and the Tenchi sword is is ripped off from Star Wars. So I mean, everything is ripped off from something. It all goes down the line, whatever. So then so you have that story with him and then a sword, and then what's happened in the backdrop, whatever, is that so it takes place on two realms. You have, you know, the real world and you have the hell world, you know, or like devil. So the main enemy in this is literally Satan himself as a devil in the hell world. And this is pretty much, again, kind of copied off the concept of like Demon City Shinjuku and sort of Wicked City and all that. How, you know, how it's like there's like the regular world, but then it's infiltrated by you know, demons and stuff from this parallel world that exists. So it plays off that, and then this one part is borrowed from Dragon Ball Z with, you know, the Dragon Balls. They had to collect the Dragon Balls or whatever to get a wish. On this one, it's not to get a wish, but it's what happens is like if it's like there's these like gems. I don't remember if I had 7 gems or if there was. I don't even know if I even listed the number at that point in the plot line. But then they have these gems, these rubies. That was the type of gem it was rubies. And that if you I think the idea was that like if he got like enough, and then if it was put, I think it was like if you got them all, then like you had some kind of, you know, invincibility thing. But the gems, with their original purposes, like if you put them on this kind of like tombstone, like Indiana Jones kind of thing, and you put it in the slot and turn it or whatever, it's supposed to waken up one of the old bodyguards to like this family that the Zen character guy is in. And then I made 2 of those characters based off El Hazard, Shayla, and Ms. Mustel, or whatever how you pronounce her last name, to represent the fire and ice thing. That's like later. That's like by like the 6th issue in here or 7th issue or whatever. So now all this kind of looks like this. Now it starts getting better, a little bit better, more later on. So like that was all just the first issue, and this is like the 2nd issue. So I said the first 2 issues are drawn pretty rough, and I'm just gonna kind of fast forward a little bit for some of this. So it still kind of looks the same in the beginning of the 2nd issue as it does to the first. You know, skill wise, still looks about the same. So basically in the first issue was like they live in this like, you know, old temple thing in the middle of like this mountain or whatever, and you know they had like this, you know, assassin came in. They tried to kill him or whatever that they had to fight off, and then through that, you know, the main character had to understand why that was happening, what was going on, and all this stuff. So that was starting to reveal, you know, parts of the story or whatever. So now the 2nd issue, they're, you know, leaving that place and they're kind of getting on their journey or whatever you could say. So it's just more of like all of this. I'm not exactly sure what's going on, but just some stuff. And then at this point, they introduced that character Moxie, who I drew earlier. So this is the first page where Moxie is introduced. And Moxie is basically a Bulma clone. It's basically the same idea. As you start off with this, you know, this girl that's, you know, intelligent and also, you know, attractive looking or whatever, and basically all the other, you know, all these other people, just like the Dragon Ball concept, everyone else that's aside from the family that owns that's supposed to be like the rubies or whatever, they're all going after this for different, selfish gains. And for her, it's to just become rich because she's supposed to be like a geologist or an archaeologist type of person who, graduated and, got like, a high in academia and whatever, and then learned about these, mythological, stones or whatever, and then she started figuring out that they were real, and then trying to get to the location. So that's how they, interact. So she just wants to be able to, she wants to get it, and then she wants to sell it to a place where she's going to make a whole lot of money and then become famous through discovering them and all that. And then obviously what happens is, she's surrounded by, these people who are not going to give it up, and so she's going to forever follow them, until she can somehow sneak away with it on her own. So it's like there's a few times she tries to basically sneak off with it, and then they of course stop her and all this stuff. So, and then she's supposed to be, she's not like evil. It's just more so to represent a kind of like your standard capitalistic career driven person. So it's not really supposed to be like an evil person or a sociopath or anything like this. And it's not really like an evil scheme or whatever, but it's just, more realistic, like, hey, it's not yours kind of thing. But she doesn't know anything about the family history of all that stuff, and she learns it, but still it does, anyway. So that's like, how that character is introduced and what's going on with that one. So then, of course, she'll pretend to like, the main character, whatever, or some kind of, light flirting or something like that, in order to just, be able to steal that ruby from him and like run away and all this shit. So that's the kind of like tactic she tries in the beginning, and then other times it's kind of like, okay, if everyone's asleep, then tries to, grab them and run off, and then, they're all hyper vigilant, traumatic, fighter people, so that doesn't work, Yep. My screen went down again. I can close out this calculator. Okay. This thing's heavy. I can't just keep holding it. So then, they face like another guy. It's like, each manga, it's kind of like, there's a little bit of Fist of the North Star in there, where it's like, each manga thing, like, just like Kenshiro had to fight a different guy each time. You have that going on. So here we get the, the Dragon Ball Z clone Energy Blast fighting kind of, thing. Things. Alright, so I'm gonna keep going. Here's a front cover, and then I would have like a back. I have a back cover, so it's like the end of each issue would be like just a random sketch, and then saying about next time this other thing comes out, and then this is the cover for the third. So then you have another character, which is Anna, based off the Tekken Anna character, who is basically a spy type of character. So this whole the third episode is like the example of like Moxie trying to run off with the ruby, and then becomes thwarted by another thief that's trying to. So then they get into like a tiff between two thieves trying to go after this. So the one character, I don't even know her name, but I'm just saying Anna because it's like the one from Tekken or whatever. So we have sometimes I did some, let's see, this way. Sometimes like I had some pages that were, you know, full picture. Like, you know, it's no frame, it's one thing. So it's them, you know, and then go into like a village or whatever, because they're trying. This is kind of like that one episode in Slayers. It was like a second or third episode in Slayers when you know, they go into the hotel and then Zelgadis, you know, follows them in, and you know, Zelgadis from Slayers tries to get that one thing, that stone thing that like Lena has. Like I was watching Slayers on VHS when I was drawing this stuff, so I mean, pretty much all my favorite anime is kind of submersed in this in one form or another. So there's not much like real original. It's just kind of a hodgepodge of my favorite stuff that just kind of mixed into an original story. But you know, it's probably pretty common. Let's see. So that's like, again, you know, her trying to steal it. You know. Ugh. I'm gonna skip some of these pages because they got a little risque. So this is, at this point, this is like when the drawing started getting in this like kind of in between stage. I call it, where it's better than it was. Like, you know, where it's better than it was, but it's still not that great. It's still pretty messy. You know, and it's, you know. So this is kind of like, you know, the in between stage. You know, as far as my drawing ability goes. So, you know, I got a lot better with, like, darkening it. Jeez. I got a lot better with darkening it with the pencil. But it's still, the backgrounds are still really, like, messy. Like, as far as just a lot of, you know, pencil scrub everywhere. But the action sequences are getting a little better, you know. The action sequences are starting to get a little bit better. See, I started off with this because I knew this was kind of going to take a little while. It's heavy in my arms. Right. So then we are at the 4th issue in here. This is when it introduces another character, which is Kione clone, you know, from Tenchimoyo. So chose Kione from because I felt like Kione was more of a had more of a physical fighting style body out of the Tenchi characters. I also really liked Kione at the time. So it's like one of my original favorite Tenchi characters. So this is when the drawing is starting to get better. So at this point, this is like when it's starting to get better. So it's still a little messy in the beginning. In here. Yeah. But this is when I'm starting to actually like what I'm doing. Like as far as like how it looks, it's getting a lot better. Like this picture, like so it's kind of retaining some of the original sort of distorted artwork, but I felt like the storyboarding expressions and you're starting to notice like on this page, you're not seeing as much of that smudgy pencil work everywhere. It's getting a little cleaner. So again, this is like the only progression of anything getting better is just drawing the same thing. There's nothing I'm working with. I had no teaching, no whatever. This is all innate drawing. See this page this page was one I had a friend in high school. He saw this page and he was like, "All right, now this is like your best page so far that you're drawing." So he likes like the top picture, and then he likes kind of this sort of like the anime. Like you're starting to really see animation at this point, like how things are moving. Which I mean was already kind of there a little bit, but you're starting to like really sense and feeling like the movement now at this point, like how it could be like and how it could actually like you could almost visualize this starting to transition to like a video format, because you're starting to actually, when you read it, you're starting to actually feel animation in it and movement, and the picture's getting a little more clearer, but this is all still entire pets. Fuck. Try. Come on. Come on, come on, come on. I can't get it to unblur. Let me try to close it, open it back. Come on. It doesn't want to unblur. Work. There. Alright. So, yeah, it's getting... That stuff was like the Cybermen. It's kind of like the Cybermen enemies. I'm gonna flip through some of these pages. Just some more, stuff going on there. So this character, this enemy rather. So there was a guy that was on the very, very first, in the very beginning of this anime. He was like kind of like an army guy or whatever, and he died. And then what happened was he basically he went to hell, and then he had a deal, because since he personally like knew this family or whatever, that he had a deal that he would he could go back to like the regular world and go in and out of regular world and the hell world if he was able to go after these guys and go after the ruby thing and the sword, I believe. So then, main character is like traumatized, this whatever. It's like, I thought, you're dead and all this stuff, blah, 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 blah. Back on here. This is an advertisement. Oh, right here. This is an advertisement page for my second manga I made that was called Punks. So, which is basically juvenile delinquents doing juvenile delinquent things and sneaking out of house and all that stuff, and the whole like idea of just going out at night and the stories that would happen with all of that. And that's what that was. I made it was an incomplete thing. This is also an incomplete thing, but that one was even more so. I mean, I think I got like 30 pages of that. I think I did like one issue of it, and then I went back to focus on this thing. So, all right. So then they go and they find this other character who is like this jokester, kind of Master Roshi-ish kind of character. Old man that's energetic or whatever. But yet is a prankster, but yet is also wise, that you have to respect and whatever, but doesn't respect you, kind of thing. So then he has this little tournament mat out there where he wants to test them all and find out who's actually the strongest one or whatever thing's going on, because he knows certain things that they don't necessarily know. So this is all very much, Dragon Ball Z, Tenchi Budokai, whatever you call it, tournament thing, in like from regular Dragon Ball. This is very much homage to that. Everything in here is like a homage to something, pretty much. It's just like it's almost like an infinite reference thing, but that's just limited creativity regarding combining ideas from things that I knew. So, I only knew like probably 10 anime series or titles at that point of time, so I mean, that's what I had to work with. So in this part, he's having like a dream sequence, like a nightmare sequence. So it's kind of like this distorted, out of reality thing. Meh. Some pictures get a little gory, so I don't show them all. So this is the next issue of it. It's kind of pretty much just continuing from there. Where, after he had this traumatic dream sequence, he suddenly got a lot better for some reason at fighting. out of some kind of fear instinct or something. And then they like attacked this like forest area or whatever. So the older guy named, I think his name was Solon, like Solon. There's no real reason, just sitting here, grasping at letters, trying to come up with something. Ow, it's really hurting my arm now. Whew. I went to the gym the other day and I'm like really sore on top of it. So at this point, like basically like the guy, he was pretty much joking the entire time. Now he's gotten a little more serious because he starts seeing or noticing that there's way more things from the hell world that's coming out into the regular world, and he's getting concerned with like a full demonic takeover. So now he wants to kind of feels like there's limited time before it becomes too much, and you have to sort of take these enemies out, whatever. So they're going to go and they're trying to find the next. They know that this one guardian is already like released or whatever from like the one where they don't need the ruby to get this guardian out of like your Han Solo frozen state or whatever. This person's already out there, so then like they're just trying to find him, and then they run into him during this whole thing. And then Moxie meets him on this like area where it's kind of like the Namekians when the Namekian planet was getting taken over or whatever. Stomach's starting to hurt. So this is like, see, it kind of goes in and out of like a Dragon Ball Z-ish kind of universe, and then in and out of like a Fist of the North Star kind of post-apocalyptic kind of thing, and also you have the Ninja Scroll kind of universe, which I don't know if that's, I guess that's supposed to be more of like old Japan, but then there's this old Japan stuff in here mixed in with modern stuff, and I just saw the camera's blurry again. Oh, it's already done. Okay. And doing it. Screen went out again. Probably glare on like every single time I'm showing any of this. It's starting to get more heavy on the one side versus the other now at this point. This thing like weighs like 5 pounds or something. Trying to. See, sprites, center thinking NES games. The characters again, they're again drawn a little more bigger. It's going to be a little more flashy. I'm gonna skip past that page, those 2 pages. Some risque stuff in here. Oh, it's getting heavy. One side just always gets more glaring like than the other. Harder to see. I don't know. That one side's like really reflecting. A lot I can do. Oh, getting really tired here. Okay. Shoo. More kind of graphic-y stuff. This is like, you know, the main character had like sort of a nightmare scene before, and now his character's like having like this, you know, like psychological breakdown from just seeing, you know, violence basically, and now experiencing it in person, just kind of can't take it. So then I have that led to this picture. It's kind of like a Gohan kind of thing, kind of moment, you know. So I have a full colorized picture there. Ow. I didn't even remember that it was that late in the issue, too. I thought it was like something from the first page or whatever, but I don't exactly look at this thing that much. And he goes in like a berserk mode kind of thing and just totally demolishes this guy with his bare hands, like makes his whole body explode and all this stuff. So I'll just skip that. It's a little too much. So just talking about the ruby thing a bit more of a gem. Kind of like called it, I think they called it gems mostly, but type of gem was a ruby. Yeah. Phew. Yeah, these. This one picture. There we go. So this is like when it gets into another layer where the main character is actually anthropomorphic, like kind of werewolf-like, and has this, and is basically not even like a full human, and that's sort of like the reveal of like why the person, the main character, has all that powers. Again, it's ripping off Goku, how Goku's revealed to not wind up being a full human, but is actually, you know, a Saiyan in this case. This character is more of isn't from another planet, so it's not that nothing about this goes to other planets. There's no space thing in this. This is all just parallel dimension stuff. So, you know, this is more, it's more like, you could say that he's almost more like a skinwalker kind of thing. You know, because he can like transform into like, you know, a more like anthropomorphic, you know, energy thing. He doesn't know it, but the Solon guy does. Solon guy knows everything, so he's trying to sort of bring out that power, but not necessarily bring out that transformative state, because it's like, you know, dangerous and all that. So it's kind of where the new, you know, plot lines happen. So I mean, you know, I was pretty good about like each issue really, you know, hooking you as far as you know, a very much continuously building plot that gets more and more layers into the universe and the story of it and the characters. So I was pretty good with that. And like I said, action sequences starting getting better. Then I started, you know, I liked to do these kind of more like dissociative, a lot of, you know, there's a lot of like, you know, imagery of like sort of, you know, dissociative kind of things and like these other kind of trance like states, and there starts being illustrating later a connection to possibly how dreams is possibly like in, you know, an opening to another alternative world that's also another parallel dimension that you can tap into. So a lot of this stuff kind of gets more into, you could say, you know, more of that kind of thing. So this example, let's see, right on this page on the top, that is actually manga grayscale sticky stuff that you put on there. That was how the traditional manga people did it, is they did it like that. And that stuff is very expensive and it's very hard to work with too. It's very hard to cut that, as you can see. Like I got some opening spots in there. Now on the neckline, that part's deliberate to make it like, you know, an outline, but on the hat, you know, that's kind of the mess up. It's not exactly supposed to be like that, but it's also, you know, I was making a dissociative kind of imagery, so it didn't have to be like perfect, you know what I mean? So now, like I said, introduces the two El Hazard kind of character ripoffs. One that looks literally exactly like Shayla Shayla, pretty much absolutely the same, and the other one is like Mij Mistal, which that character doesn't looks more like a doll, like a frozen like doll like kind of state, and or puppet, or like kind of traditional Japanese doll puppet kind of thing, rather than actually looking like Mij Mistal. So it doesn't have the same personality. That's actually the person right here. So this is, you know, colored pencil. Now, I had a cover photo. I believe it was for issue 9, or the issue after this, where was a color photo of the Shayla Shayla like El Hazard ripoff character. And it was my most favorite drawing that I ever did in this whole book, in this whole series. And so what happened was, a little bit of backstory with this. So I took this book with me to when I went to school all the time. Like, I actually started having a following of people who wanted to read this and started liking it. And, you know, in the first drawings, like I said, you know, not really too much people looking at, but once, like I said, once it got to this, you know, 4th issue kind of thing, that's when people started really like looking at this, and they were reading it, and they would read it, and they spent like, you know, 5 minutes reading this. Often it was in the morning before first period happened, and then they would just look at it and then give it back to me like, hey, that's really good. And then they wanted to know like when my next issue would come out, and then they would want to read it like as soon as I did it. And you know, this is the only physical copy of this book, and I had this book with me, but you know, things kind of actually escalated a bit. Like I had so start off with like one nerdy peer in the hallway who looked at it, and then what happened is, you know, this guy would be reading this book, and then 2 other peers would be like, hey, what you looking at, huh? And then they would start reading it together, and then more and more people started looking at it like this. And at first it started, so then I don't know, in like about a first year, it was like all the nerds already looked at this. And then that was already like, by my high school was all male. It was like all male Catholic, private, Republican sports jock based kind of school. There was only 2 types of people there. There was computer nerds and there was rich jocks, and that was it. There was like no middle class social middle class of people. There wasn't a place for alternative people. You couldn't look alternative there, and it was damn hard to find anyone who even like Green Day or like, you know, I was doing music at the same time. I was writing songs and I was learning guitar and doing all that. I couldn't find anyone into that to like start a band or anything with. So the nerds all looked at this stuff because they all looked at anime and, you know, drawing stuff in general. And then what happened was then, you know, it's the classic case. I'm going to actually do that. It's okay. All this is under a protector thing. And what happened was some of the jocks, you know, it's the whole push the nerd into the locker kind of thing, ho ho ho, or you know, grab your book, you know, slam it on the ground or whatever, or hey, what's that, you know, and takes it from you kind of thing, right? I had quite a few times where I had, you know, a jock type person be like, oh, what's that book? And then goes and takes it and then starts looking at it. And it's like looking at it for something to like make fun of me for, right? And then looks at it in here and then just actually reads it. And the same response every single time. Like, they all went from this, you know, I'm going to pick on you kind of shit, right? And then their face just went like straight dropped and they actually looked at it and became focused in looking at it and forgot everything that they were doing. And then after 5 minutes, they read the one issue, they looked, and same thing, they would get right back to me, and they would close up this book. You know, it's like they sat here and read it quietly, and they close the book, get back to me like, that's pretty good, you know? And then word spread around that I had this thing. And I kid you not, by the time I got to junior and senior high school, half of the school had read this thing, and like pretty much like a good 40% of like my, you know, I'm not saying like the whole school, like all grades, but I'm talking about in my grade level of my, you know, my graduating class, so to speak. By that point, half of my graduating class was a fan of this. Like, I'm not kidding. And then then that spread word to the teachers, starting to be like a buzz about me with the teachers. And again, you know, I showed this book to like the school art program because I wanted to get in so I can actually professionally learn skills to draw and actually draw, making this look more professionally cartooned and not like I'm doing my best with no knowledge kind of thing, right? But so I couldn't get in there, but then, you know, I had an English teacher, you know, so where you have, you know, creative writing, that kind of stuff. He respected it though, and he was interested in it. And then he said, tell you what, why? And then he saw that picture, right? And he said he was gonna publish it in the school paper, right? He wanted to publish it in the school paper and serve as an actual advertisement to the whole school that I had this manga and basically like you should support it and you should like read it and whatever. And then so then he did that, right? And he put it out as part of like the school newsletter kind of thing, right? And then that got a fervor buzz. But then I came back the next day and I'm like, I was like, hey, I need back my my cover photo. And he was like, what do you mean, what cover photo? I was like, what? You know what I mean? I gave it you that picture. And he's like, well, I don't know what you're talking about. So the motherfucker kept it for himself. So he stole my cover photo. He just blatantly just stole it. He claims he doesn't know where it was. He claims this shit. There's no way he doesn't know where it was. He kept it. He kept it for himself. So I'm missing my best page from this. Anyway, so then right afterwards, anyway, so that created a little buzz. And then I had this guy come up to me. He claimed that his family does publishing and that his family was like, he had like some family member that was a fiction novel writer and he knew a publisher. You know, but this isn't for drawing manga. This isn't for animation. This isn't for cartoons. This is for like, you know, your regular adult fiction novel stuff. So then he was like, yeah, I could do that, I could do that, I could do that, I could do that. And then, you know, it kind of started giving me ideas, well, maybe I could actually do something with this. Maybe I can actually, after graduation, it got me the idea thinking, like, maybe I could find a comic shop or something, and I could, you know, show this to, like, a local comic shop, and I could, you know, who sells, like, Batman, Superman, and, like, probably Manga and Dragon Ball Z and that kind of thing, you know, would be more appropriate. And maybe I could, you know, put it out as, like, a local published thing and actually, you know, make money and have it be actually be published in a local way through, like, a local store, right? I couldn't find anything like that at the time. And like I said, at that time, even when I did, they had the idea of an American doing this was, like, unheard of, you know. Now, of course, Gerard Way from My Chemical Romance, he does comics, but I think his was more not anime. I think his was more of, like, the DC kind of Batman, Superman kind of thing. But so this guy teased me this whole idea about it was going to be published, and then it never did, and then he didn't know anyone, or I never got those connections. It's just one of these things people say to you, and they never come back toward you about it. So so I'm almost, my god, I can't, like, even lift this thing anymore. So anyway, what I was saying is I was doing this and I was writing music at this point at the same time. So, you know, in the other videos, some like the early, like, you know, the emo pop punk stuff I was writing, I was doing that and I was doing this at the same time. And then what kind of happened, but this was like my real thing at first, because, you know, this was getting traction. This was like, you know, I built a following all in person. I had people who I felt, you know, socially would not be a nerd who even was starting to like it. I had, you know, authority figures starting to, you know, feeling like I was starting to get, like, support from, like, the whole school, really. And I was making a name for myself. And at the same time, I'd go into the hallway and I'd bring sometimes my acoustic guitar, sometimes my electric guitar, and I'd play stuff. And, you know, I have teachers yell at me. Would have, like, this math teacher be like, hey, AC/DC, knock it off, you know. Like, don't play, you know, guitar or whatever in the hallway. I did make cassette tapes for my emo pop punk stuff at the time, but it was totally laughed at the time because, as I said, at the time my vocals was, like, totally atonal. And they didn't care about the guitar, they didn't care about songwriting, a lot of people not into music, like, would just listen to the vocals, and they kind of determine something's good just based off vocals alone and production. So obviously, you know, when I self-recorded something from a boombox and I couldn't sing, you know, I wasn't taken seriously, and I was laughed at. That was the reason why I went professionally in the studio, and did spend, you know, $1,200 in senior year to record a real demo with pretty much real people. But I ran into the same problem where my vocals was atonal, and I ran up with a nice sounding demo without vocals on it. So I was working on both things at the same time. All right. Almost done the pages that's even in here. This is all starting to be in the 8th issue, which you can't tell because, as I said, or 7th issue is one of the two. Or no, I think I'm at 9. I can't remember now. But anyway, the cover photo is missing, so I just kind of bled right into the other. So these are, you know, some of the last pages that I had drawn in here. Alright, so the gimmick to make the Shayla Shayla person not Shayla Shayla was to make the person be more of like an 80s, you know, kind of J-rock kind of thing, instead of just being Shayla Shayla. So that was my There's no more pages to it. Whew. All right. Thing is a brick. Okay. So with that said, that's pretty exhausting. All right, so one thing that really helped me get through that I only want to, so there's only two things I had as assistants. I had this book, the How to Draw Manga book. This was massively huge for me at the time. This, if you're gonna draw manga, you should get this thing. This thing was so, this was like a Bible to me as far as how this thing really helped. So you know, it shows, it has this beginning of it where it kind of shows, you know, what it's like having the job of a manga person and kind of like what the daily life is like and like all the steps to do. So then this was giving me a picture of like, okay, so I'm gonna need like a team of like 4 or 5 people to make this done. And this was pretty important. So right here on this page, if I can get this to show up decently enough. So on this page, this storyboards, this is how I did it. I copied this whole thing. So they would be like, so you would do a writing outline of how your 30-page issue is going to be. So it'd be like page 1 cover, and page 2 you'll write a sentence of what's going to happen. You might make a parentheses of a description of just like what a picture is to look like or to draw, but you make it like 1 sentence long. And then I would write that whole thing on, you know, loose leaf paper, which loose leaf paper has about 32 lines on it if you're doing college ruled. So that's how I did it. So I have the storyboards down like this. I believe, I'm not sure if I still have it in here. I believe I have storyboards writing in here. I think so. Don't know so. But I think I have. Alright. Oh, I do. So this is actually one of the pages that was left off where I left off at. So this is how I did the storyboards. So I didn't have page numbers, but I just did as a script. So I had in parentheses what I'm going to draw, and then I would have dialogue. So I wrote out all the dialogue, and then I would basically draw out the pictures. So I had dialogue, and I had, you know, parentheses, and as I went through each frame, I checked it off what I did. So this is how I was able to keep track. This is the writing of the actual story was like this. And then I would go through this, and then I would draw it. Let's see if I can get it in here. I would go through in here, and I would actually draw each frame. So each line, you know, it might be for a frame box, it could possibly be like 2 lines of dialogue because, you know, a character says this, a character says that inside the same, you know, little frame bubble, and then, you know, might be 3 of those pieces might make up 1 page, or it might just be 1 page by itself, you know, so it just kind of, you know, depended. And that was how I did that. I still have some of my tools in here. You know, still have stuff kept around in case if I ever pick it back up. But I don't know how to, but I have a dizziness condition because I live with a neck injury and post-concussion, and if I look down and try to write, I get vertigo, and then it strains in here, and it creates all muscle spasms and stuff. So I can't draw anymore until I can. And I've tried like some other positions, like kind of going up and this, but it doesn't work. I really need, you need a good hardwood desk. I do, to really write on that's flat and not have anything other crap on it, whatever. Let's see. Oh, it's just solid in here. Like, It's just solid. I think I pushed it. There it is. There it is. Where is it? Gimme. Let's leave some of my tools in here. Alright, I use this to draw all of the heads. So I would, so this was really a great tool. So this way I could already start, the circle for the head. And, I had all the different sizes for it. So if I, if anything was far away or anything was close up, like I had all this pre-made thing. So, I would draw the circle and then I would, draw my crosshairs through it. And, I was able to do with all the turns. That was where I started to draw the character. It was always first with the head circle and the crosshairs, and then I built the body after that. And, yeah. So that's that part. There's some of my tools in here. I still have the old ink. This is messy, though. So I started off with, like, this kind of India ink that was, like, really messy with the old school original pens that you would do. But that got really messy. So I stopped drawing it that way, and I became in favor of more of this stuff. So I think I have one sitting here like this. Let's see if I can find them all. All my stuff is in here. Let's see. So, this was a whole set I got from Michael's. I worked there at one point, so I got this discounted from, employee discount, I remember. And then I had, like, these. This is, this would probably be something I would use for inking or marking with the black. Because, before I was penciling in and just making it really dark to try to, like, do, like, the black stuff like I did with, just like I did with, like, the Ayaka picture. Like, this is all pencil. But, oh, actually, look. I have this on the back. So I didn't realize this. So, I showed this, so that's, inked, right? On the back is the original. So the original, I have it just inked. And, so this was all drawn in pencil, and then, eraser, clean it up, and then re-ink it. So all of this is all inked. That's all these lines are all inked. All hand inked. And then the rest, so then I, put this through, Adobe Photoshop, colorized it, and then I would print it to grayscale, and it looked nice like this. So, that was how the process was going to be for all of the pictures. So everything you saw in that is in a rough draft pencil stage. But it was supposed to get to here, But, that was when it was like, well, I would really want a team of people, some people with some better skill than me with certain things. Probably the biggest thing I really needed as a person, as far as drawing, was, my backgrounds were all cheap. I pretty much kind of made it more focused on the characters, and I kind of really just half-assed the backgrounds because I was not good at the technical drawing of backgrounds. Like, buildings and all this stuff. So a lot of it, like, if you look at Rama 1/2, like the manga for Rama 1/2, you'll see there's very little anything in the backgrounds for Rama. They cheapened it out too for the manga. Like, it's really was just kind of the characters and the dialogue and all of that. But if you look at Akira manga, so I'll explain what I'm talking about here. So I'll go back to the other book. But so this was like, like the Akira manga was a massive influence as far as just all of this drawing stuff. But there's my dog ripped off the cover of it because he got angry at me not paying attention to him when I was in high school. You know, they like take your favorite things and rip it up. Anyway, so if you look at here, and this is pretty fragile at this point. It's really worn out. So you see these kind of backgrounds and all this like lovely technical drawing with like all of those details, and it's all really fine lined and everything. I can't draw that stuff. This is something like I would want to go to school for, to be able to draw like that. So at the time, you know, if I was to create a team to work on publishing this, that's someone who I would hire as the most important person, you know, next to me, as far as, because I was, you know, doing the characters and all that kind of thing and writing, which still, you know, it was unproportional, but I did kind of start to create a style with it, you know, just like South Park is unproportional, but they created a style with it over time. And people liked it. I mean, people didn't really complain that much. They still thought it was good. They're still like, oh, it's better than what I could do, kind of thing. And again, like my action sequences were starting to get better, and you know, starting to show some kind of animation. But you know, really importantly, I would have hired someone to draw all the technical background so I could really enhance, you know, the artwork. That would have been one person on my team for sure. Another person on the team would have been to, if there ever was actual animation to happen, like if it was to go, you know, to a video or something, then that would be a separate person or a whole other, I don't know, a whole other thing. But you know, I would probably want to do like little mini animation promos to support like the manga drawing, you know, as like a way of advertising for it. Would have been something, would have been good. And another person would have been someone who's much better on the computer with Adobe, and that can really, you know, do even a better job with this than even I could as a, you know, final product. And probably a fourth person to, you know, to work on more of maybe redrawing some of the body stuff, so be a little more proportional. And that's kind of what I was looking at. I was looking at, you know, pretty much that, and then me still controlling all of the story and the writing and all of that kind of thing. So then, you know, going back to the How to Draw Manga book, see this, it shows you everything you need. So, you know, I got, you know, as many tools as I could get. See these over here, these are like the original ink pens, which I did use in the beginning. You saw them on the very first pages in that first issue, but it was very sloppy. Like you'll get ink blots. It would be a lot of ink blotting, and then it gets really bad ink blotting. I mean, the whole thing's kind of a mess, pretty much. So I stopped using these, you know, very early on. It was kind of fun in the beginning, you know, but let's see. So I used mechanical pencils. I have them in here. So these are number 5s for ink, and these are number 7s. This is number 7B, and this is a 0.5 HB, or is this 0.7B, and this is 0.5 HB. Those are the two ones I used. What else I got? I started with just the regular mechanical pencils that you fill, but then I think I mostly I did start to use like these two guys as other mechanical pencils that came with the set. Oh, there we go. So I mostly use. So I also used, you know, the pre-made Bics for the pencils, for the mechanical pencils. So I also use these, but these would be like really soft. I didn't really like them as much. There was this one particular one that's in here. If I can find it, that was my most favorite one, and I used it. And I really kept it for a long time, but I'm not seeing it. Oh, I found it. I found it. I found it. This is what I use most of the time, was this one. So for the lead pencils, the eraser fell off on the top. So I would fill this up with those, you know, 0.5 HB and the 0.7B lead. And this is the main thing I drew this whole thing on with, was this. So this was like really important for me to hold on to. It's probably something you get anywhere. It's called a Techniclick. I don't know if that means anything. It's supposed to be for 0.7 lead. But and I have 0.7 leads in there, but then I have the I use 0.5 as well. And you know, I have the eraser. I went through a couple different erasers. I think the one I liked the most was. Is this an eraser? No, it's more ink. I haven't looked through this stuff in a long time. I used this end. I liked this eraser on this pen because it's like as a certain type pen eraser, I was able to like control it a lot better. That helped me get it less smudgy. But in the beginning, I did use, you know, these kind of things, you know. In the beginning, I did use these kind of erasers. So. And I have this one in here too. So I use a lot of that stuff. Alright, I don't think I see the original pens, but I think, like I said, it didn't matter. Once I got that other kit, I really liked it. Just everything got a lot cleaner, you know. And for the colored pencils, it was, you know, the Prismacolor color pencil sets that was what everyone here used all the time back then at that point. Didn't use them very often. It was just for cover photos. So what else was in here? So again, you know, it shows, you know, your stencil kits. So, I mean, I really, this was a Bible for me. I mean, I studied this book. I did everything the book told me to do, and it really was the only thing I had to help me at all when doing it. See, these are the tone sheets, the traditional old tone sheets. I showed in that one picture how that looked. And then it's tells you how to, you know, draw the face and start doing with the crosshairs and all that. You draw, you know, you take crosshair this way. So when you go down here, this is to align the nose. So you get to the center, and that's going to be your nose. You're going to put this out. Then you put the other crosshairs right here, which is going to be where you're going to denote where the eyes are. And that's what I did. Now, in like in this picture, in this cube, that, you know, some of them do like these 3-line crosshairs. I never did that. I always did the simple, just 1-line crosshair. I didn't do it like this. I only did it one. That was it. That's all I did. Because anything more, it's like it became more to erase, and I just didn't do it that way. So I started it with just this simple stuff on this page right. Nope, sorry, right here. This page right here. This is really the skill that I used, was this. Oh, now it's blurry. Come on. Come on. Come on. I can't get it. Hold on. Worked last time. I can't get this thing to unblur. Oh, yeah. I didn't really need this page much, so I'm not going to show that one. It's just facial expressions. I was pretty good with just doing facial expressions on my own. This was some of like how of drawing the hair with like the little, you know, style highlights that it puts in the manga kind of way. I did that. Thought that was cool. I did try doing it this way with drawing bodies for you know, but I sort of did it like I said like I used less circles, so I did it a really simplified way, and you know my figures are not really that proportional. They are distorted. I would like them to have been more proportional, but that was something like I would need to go to a school for to really make that get better. So all of this stuff, it's like I would want to like go to I would really wanted to go to technical school and just learn these things, like you know, for just making the body more proportional was a major thing I would want to be able to do, and then this was kind of helpful as far as drawing. It's showing like movement, like how to do some movements with like clothing and all that, direction of force. This explains about how to like you know format introducing your characters, you know, and creating dynamic, you know, characters and how to kind of story tell it and show it and expressions and all that kind of thing. I was pretty good with naturally doing that also on my own. That one I didn't really need much help to really do. Always found these pages interesting. So this was, you know, just some figures just to showcase kind of like personality and temperament and you know it gave me ideas of like you know creating characters in itself. Um, so like there would explain like they kind of classified people. There would be like cute and perky, and then the gentle type, and then the weak-willed characters, and then the strong-willed characters, and the greedy characters, and strong-willed and selfish, and like all this kind of stuff, you know. So that was really helpful. And then I had you know, I had, you know, Dragon Ball Z manga. This was really, I looked at a lot because this was, you know, during the best era of Dragon Ball Z. So, you know, a lot of this stuff, you know, was influential for the fighting sequences that I started to do pretty well with. So, you know, you've seen stuff that looks like this in the manga I drew, you know. These are, you know, like, it was references. Then we have El Hazard. Dust just flew. And it's getting blurry again. Come on. Come on. Doesn't want to do it. Doesn't want to do it. There. So, you know, it had Shale, which was like the one character I really liked from this. That was pretty much a lot like the one other character. And then another manga that I liked a whole lot, though it didn't really bear much influence at all, is Gunsmith Cats. This is my favorite manga series of all time, is Gunsmith Cats. Now, it didn't really, you know, stuff in here didn't really have any influence in the manga that I was drawing, but this was one of my favorites to read and look at. I thought the drawing was really, really good. And it was all just really, it's just good. Not a lot to say about that, but and I really loved, like, with Gunsmith Cats and Akira, you know, I was really fascinated by all the technical, like, but more like, you know, machinery kind of drawings and the building drawings and all of that kind of thing, because I wasn't talented in that type of way, but so I was really interested in you know, these two mangas for, like, that kind of stuff that I wasn't able to really do, you know. Alright. Alright, so I'm gonna conclude this one with, these are my top 10 favorite anime. So we got number 1 is Tenchi Muyo, and this particular set I really love. So this was like the best, like, coming of age. If you're attracted to sexually dominant women, then this is like the biggest thing for you. You know. Now, in number 2 is City Hunter. No surprise, and I made the City Hunter no context City Hunter page that people are enjoying, so I made that, and this is my favorite. Number 3 is the Slayers, and you know, saw kind of the journey influence is from that. So, oh my god, it's all blurry. It's really, like, getting to me. Come on. Come on. It's not gonna. Alright, number 4 is Ranma. Number 5, El Hazard. And then, you know, I have Gunsmith Cats, Dragon Ball Z in there. You saw. So I have those. And then, anime movies. The Big Bad Top 5. Number 1, Akira. Number 2, Ghost in the Shell. Number 3, Perfect Blue. Number 4, Fist of the North Star. And number 5, Ninja Scroll. And obviously, here we go. I mean, there's the influence from the main character. is, you know, jubei, as, you know, the traditional samurai kind of idea. So you see all these anime. So the combination of these animes that I watched, and then the how to draw manga, and then my own imagination, it all led to what was my original manga, which was called Warheads, which was named after the Warheads candy, because at the time the Warheads candy was one of my favorite candies. So, and I thought it was a good name for action, you know, an action adventure manga. Thought it kind of fitted it pretty well. All right, so that's it. So that's me as a manga artist. That it never happened, almost happened, but if I didn't have my dizziness, and if, like, with looking down and all of that, and because I have to be in this overhead position to draw, you know, and looking down, if I didn't have that issue, and if I remembered how to even draw, and if I was just like a few steps away, resources wise, from that actually being a profession. It really was. I needed to be, you know, I needed to go to the technical kind of drawing school, but, you know, just doing stuff with charcoal or clay or paper mache is not do anything for this. Like, I only wanted some specific things to be taught. Like, I wanted to, you know, go to a cartoon kind of school to be able to actually draw, you know, proportional bodies. That was like a big thing, to draw like a more realistic, you know, professional bodies. And, like, you know, do I have it over here? You know, more of like, you know, Batman animated series kind of thing, or you know, the mangas that are more realistic in a sense as far as the bodies go. I mean, that's what I wanted, so I needed that skill. And second one, I really needed the technical background skills of being able to draw the buildings and the machinery and all of that really cool detail, because some of that is like my favorite stuff. When I see that, like, an actual manga, like, hand drawn, I'm like, that's talent. That's like super talented stuff. So again, you know, like when I see that, like, in Akira, you know, it's just really awesome stuff. I mean, that was something I really wanted to be able to do. And then, you know, I had interest, I had a following, and it seemed to, you know, it went beyond just people who were into manga. It was, or even into cartoons or even animation. It was just, I had this, you know, interest. People around me had this interest in it, and they were much more interested in that than they were in my music at the time, because of my atonal vocals was not liked, you know, at that time. So, but what happened was, you know, it would take me about 2 hours. I'd say about 2 hours to draw one page. But I got to the point when writing pop punk songs, I could write a pop punk song in like 10 minutes at that time, 10, 15 minutes. So creatively, I was like, okay, well, I was thinking in my head, not that many people want to read. You know, physical media with books, even in 2003, to me, didn't seem like something people were really interested in. You know, and without and being, you know, an American who draws manga, it's really hard to establish yourself in the same, you know, credential way. But I was doing pretty good in just my local community of just my school. So that was really what drove me to being like, at that time, being like, I really, this could have really gone somewhere. You know, I was only, I was only 15, 16, 17 years old. You know, I mean, if I had, it was only 3 years of drawing, and I gained a following like that with just pencil, you know, and just that, and just people's just curiosity of like, that's a big book, what is in that thing? And they opened it and they actually read it. They didn't look and skim. They actually, every person wound up sitting down and actually reading it, and they forgot where they were and what they were doing, what they're gonna do, and they actually submersed themselves into it. And that was like really big. So you know, I have other ideas. Like now, right now, I'm starting to get into creative writing of like erotica, kind of short story stuff, which is only just typing. Um, so I mean, I do these, you know, various things, but you know, the manga, you know, it didn't get to, you know, a published state, and my music isn't at a published state either. So everything that I've done is just always underneath that realm of being career. So I just don't know how to get to, you know, the state of, you know, careering, you know, and monetizing these kind of things. I mean, I've had interest, but I don't know how to get to there. It's always some step is always missing with me. So I'm really hungry now at this point. So I think I'm gonna go and conclude that as one video. Um, but yeah, I guess if it wasn't for, you know, the physical limitations and not having the training and just needing, you know, someone to put that into a monetization kind of thing, I would have been doing that. I think I still would have been doing music too, but be nice to be like Gerard Way and do both, you know. All right, that's it.